Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Good. Let's see how long you can last. Yunxiao cried out, "Burn! True phoenix flame, burn!" A sea of fire immediately appeared in the sky. The terrifying flame aura covered the sky and the earth, swallowing the purple cauldron and burning it. The two forces of territory, which were in the Divine Realm tablet, were exerted to their strongest extent and stacked together. The purple cauldron finally couldn't bear it anymore. A purple light spread out in the flame, and the body of the cauldron suddenly became golden. The strange patterns on it lit up one by one, and the brilliance flowed, and the spiritual qi was overwhelming. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with fierceness as he appeared in front of the purple cauldron in an instant and performed a refining technique. It was the elusive waves technique he had created. All kinds of incantations were thrown into the purple cauldron like raindrops, trying to start it. However, those spiritual arts were like raindrops falling into a sea of fire. They evaporated before they could even enter. No matter how powerful Yunxiao's elusive waves heavenly sutra technique was, it could not break into the purple light. Your sister. Yunxiao roared as a golden tadpole-like character gradually condensed in his hand. It was the same one he had seen in the passage of Mount Meru. He did not understand the meaning and rules of it, so he only roughly condensed it and let it shine in his hand. Bang! He struck out with all his might, passing through the thick purple qi and hitting the cauldron. In an instant, a golden light shot out from the top of the cauldron, and the patterns on the body of the cauldron became even more vibrant. The surrounding purple gas gradually dispersed and began to shoot out rays of golden light. It was a dazzling sight. The three ancient characters on the body of the cauldron of mountains and rivers also appeared more and more ancient. After Yunxiao's palm landed, he felt a huge backlash that almost crushed him. However, he was in the Divine Realm tablet, and any power was limited by the rules in the tablet. When the recoil reached his body, it dissipated directly. Now, Yunxiao was overjoyed to see the cauldron of mountain and river activated. He hurriedly summoned the purple and green qi and placed them into the cauldron. After that, the materials in his ring spread out in the sky again. Instead, he threw in all the materials that he found pleasing to the eye. In an instant, more than half of them were consumed, and there was not much left. Finally, he pointed at the extremely weak stone beast, which had stopped in the distance, and slowly flew towards the cauldron of mountain and river. The stone beast returned to its original body size in a short time. However, the earthen yellow color on his body had become extremely dull, and he appeared listless and dispirited. If we throw him in like this, he'll really die. The demonic dragon said in a deep voice. You talk too much. Yunxiao snorted. If I truly wanted to refine him to death, why would I need to waste so much effort to create that dead pig cauldron? He focused his gaze, and with a thought, streaks and streaks of yellow light appeared above the cauldron of mountain and river. They were emitted from a small dot and grew bigger and bigger. They were half the size of a fist. After the small dot appeared, the entire space was distorted to a certain extent. With the small dot as the center, it pressed down. It was as if an endless weight was directly bending the plane. Even the cauldron of mountain and river below was affected by the power. However, it did not move forward. Instead, it retreated. It seemed to be intelligent enough to avoid the power. Within the ball of light was a small piece of the earth's growing soil, a priceless treasure. With the living earth protecting his heart of stone, he won't die no matter how he refines it. As for how far he can go, that will depend on his luck. When the stone beast's exhausted body entered the large cauldron, the earth's growing soil also fell down with it. The cauldron of mountain and river seemed to have sensed the power of the breathing earth and became excited. It was colorful, like the center of fireworks. The colors covered the sky and lit up the entire sky, extending into the distance. As the light shone down, a warm feeling spread in all directions, giving off a sacred and inviolable feeling. This buy-in. Yunxiao was stunned by the huge phenomenon. He had been an alchemist for so many years, but he had never been able to produce such a large-scale phenomenon while refining. It was as if he had entered a world of blurred colors. Not only him, but the demonic dragon, Duan Yu, Yu Jiolin, and the others who were trapped in the steel all turned their eyes in one direction at the same time, and they all saw the light of the purple cauldron. The dragon had followed Yunxiao for many years, and although he did not know anything about magic, he had seen a lot. Could it be that this cauldron is also a supreme-grade, profound-level weapon? It was only then that Yunxiao came back to his senses. He shook his head and said, "I don't know. But how could there be so many transcendent-grade, profound-level weapons in the world? The only thing recorded in the history of the continent was Noah's ship. However, this phenomenon really does exceed that of an ordinary ninth-tier purple cauldron." "You've never used such a peerless treasure before," the demon dragon said worriedly. "Will the small stone be dangerous?" He and the stone beast both came from Mount Meru, and they seemed to have a very close relationship with the latter. Even if the latter didn't have much spiritual consciousness, at least they were from the same hometown. For countless years, he was a companion. Yunxiao grinned and said, "I don't know. I'll leave it to fate. Fortunately, I wasn't the one in there." The demonic dragon's face darkened. Although Yunxiao said it in a relaxed manner, he was very worried in his heart. He seemed to have no idea where to start with this mysterious cauldron. "Fuck you, don't tell me you're refining inside?" The light on the cauldron of mountain and river changed unpredictably, as if it was following some kind of rule. From time to time, all kinds of strange lights would flash out, but the strange phenomenon of each light was across the vast sky, illuminating the heaven and earth. "Can't you fucking keep a low profile?" Yunxiao was a little dumbfounded. He cursed a few times, but there was no reaction. But no matter what, he was once a ninth-rank existence. After a moment of contemplation, he began to display a set of extremely simple movements. It was the most basic refining technique, the 36 forms, and the 12 forms of flying flowers and falling snow that he had created himself. All the refining techniques in the world were derived from these most basic techniques. These 48 basic refining techniques contained all the alchemy techniques that all the alchemists in the realm of heavenly martial arts could comprehend. Perhaps the size of the art was not as simple as the 48 basic techniques, but these were all the rules that the experts of this world had comprehended after countless years of accumulation. Sure enough, with every move Yunxiao made, the cauldron of mountain and river seemed to be affected and changed slightly. Even so, Yunxiao was still very nervous and had no confidence at all. Fortunately, there was the breathing earth inside, which should be able to ensure that the stone beast's heart would not be refined. After all, the soil of breath was the mother of the earth, which evolved all things. Its level was even higher than the true phoenix fire. He really did not know what in this world could refine such an existence. Furthermore, he also noticed that the light emitted by the cauldron of mountain and river did not seem to be as simple as light. The constant changes seemed to contain some kind of rule. This discovery shocked him greatly. In this world, the only existences that could bear the weight of the rules were those legendary transcendent grade profound armaments which had surpassed the 9th grade. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Did he get another transcendent grade profound level weapon? But how was this possible? There was only one item recorded in the history of the continent, and now it had become a street stall? Moreover, he gradually understood that if he wanted to refine a transcendent grade profound level weapon, he had to master the corresponding deity tier spiritual art. Where would he find the deity tier spiritual art in this empty cauldron? They might have been lost in Mount Meru. Without the divine art, it could only be an ordinary purple cauldron. It was even worse than an ordinary cauldron that could be controlled at will. Yunxiao felt dizzy, and his throat was a little dry. He pushed away these distracting thoughts and began to immerse his body and mind into it. He developed the 48 basic techniques and tried his best to control the cauldron of mountain and river to avoid any accidents that he could not control. After an unknown amount of time, the light emitted by the cauldron of mountain and river began to converge. It became smaller and smaller, as if the refinement was nearing its end. Yunxiao's face turned white as well. Although he was in the divine realm tablet, the consumption was not something he could bear at will, and it was far beyond his imagination. If it was outside the Divine Realm tablet, there was no need to think about activating it. Unless one had a divine art, it was absolutely impossible. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous rumbles came out from the cauldron of mountain and river. As the light disappeared, the golden light disappeared and turned back to purple chi. It stopped moving and floated in the void. It turned back to the dead pig. It was dead, as if it was never alive. Yunxiao breathed a sigh of relief as well, and he released his aura. At this moment, a wave of wholehearted energy gradually gathered in his body from all directions, constantly filling his body and meridians. His dantian had also undergone a certain change, becoming more abundant and powerful. This power was not the power of the rules of heaven and earth in the Divine Realm tablet. Instead, after he had activated the cauldron of mountain and river, he had broken through the barrier that was as thin as a cicada's wing and finally stepped into the Six Directions realm, a martial grandmaster. When other people broke through a major realm, the biggest problem was not the accumulation of vital qi, but the comprehension of martial arts. This was the main reason why martial artists were eliminated layer by layer. The accumulation of yuan qi could be achieved through continuous cultivation, but martial arts comprehension required great wisdom, comprehension, and even luck. This was unless one could find the most precious treasure in the world, the martial will dao fruit. After taking it, one could directly comprehend all the martial essence of that major realm and break through with irresistible force. But for Yunxiao, his understanding of martial arts had long reached the peak of the martial emperor realm, and what he lacked the most was the accumulation of primordial qi. And because of his constitution, the amount of heaven-earth yuan qi he needed to break through every star and realm was several times, or even dozens of times, that of ordinary martial artists. Although his progress was already incredible and incomprehensible in the eyes of ordinary warriors, Yunxiao still felt that it was as slow as a snail, and he was very dissatisfied. The demonic dragon flew over and said with lingering fear, "Is Little Sure still alive? You're asking me?" Yunxiao rolled his eyes at him. "Who should I ask?" He beckoned with his bare hand, and the cauldron of mountain and river began to spin and fly back. He patted the cauldron, and a rhythm spread out from it. A ray of light rushed out from it and shot into the sky. Then, the cauldron of mountain and river turned into a miniature form, flew into Yunxiao's hand, and disappeared. The demon dragon and Yunxiao hurriedly looked up at the light and saw a black sphere floating in the air, like a piece of coal. Turned into ashes, the demonic dragon exclaimed. Yunxiao was dumbfounded as well. "Oh my god. Where's my breathing earth? It can't be gone, can it?" At this moment, the black coal in the air started to move slowly. It was like a Rubik's cube, spinning in different directions. Every time it spun, its size would increase by a bit. Furthermore, the color of its body was constantly flashing. Just like the cauldron of mountain and river, it was colorful and extremely gorgeous. Soon, it stretched out its arms and legs, and a stone beast that was completely different from the previous one appeared in front of the two. This buy-in. The two of them were completely stunned. The stone beast was now only half the height of a man, and its body was round and clumsy. Its limbs were very short and thick, and its shape was unusually cute. Other than the blank look on his face, he had completely changed. "Why are you so kawaii?" What made the two of them dizzy the most was that one of the sesame-sized eyes was purple, while the other was green. The demonic dragon madly circled in the air for a while before saying in a daze, "Can this look be used for fighting? Does he still have the strength to fight?" Yunxiao wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said in embarrassment, "I don't expect him to fight anymore. I just hope that my breathing earth hasn't been refined, right?" With a thought, he sent an order over. The stone beast's eyes glowed with purple and green light, and its round belly swelled up again. Its face became extremely uncomfortable, and it turned brown. He roared and spat out the small piece of breathing earth. It flew out of his body and floated in the air. After this process, the stone beast's body changed again. It only shrank a few times, from half the height of a person to the size of a basketball. That round belly and the head had completely turned into a treasure gourd. Yunxiao stared at the breathing earth for a while, then suddenly cried out, "Damn it, it's so much smaller. Some of it has really been refined." "How is that possible?" The demonic dragon was shocked. The living earth was a supreme treasure that had existed since the creation of the world. How could it be refined? Could it be that the little stone absorbed it? Yunxiao's heart stirred as well. He stared at the stone beast and gave an order, "Now, attack me with your most powerful attack. Let me see if you've become stronger." Purple and green gas burst out of the stone beast's eyes, cutting through the sky like two sharp swords and piercing through Yunxiao's body. Yunxiao's heart trembled. The sword qi of the purple Shadow Qing Sua sword had actually been refined into the sharp qi in his eyes. Even as a fifth-tier alchemist, he felt his spiritual sea shake. Immediately after, the stone beast's adorable face turned ferocious. It bared its fangs and roared loudly, causing the surrounding space to tremble and show signs of collapsing. The sound of stones grinding together could be heard from his entire body. At this moment, his body size continued to increase. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a giant and returned to some of the domineering appearance he had before he was refined. He roared and threw a punch. The wind from the punch was so overbearing that it caused the air pressure to explode continuously. All kinds of spiritual pressure made sharp hissing sounds, and there were purple and green qi lingering around his body. His entire huge body appeared in the purple and green qi, and he was invincible. The demonic dragon's eyes were filled with joy as it said, "So domineering, so handsome." Yunxiao was overjoyed as well, but there was also a hint of horror in his eyes. Under the punch, he could clearly feel that the power of space around him was constantly being squeezed, and it was about to collapse. The peak of a martial emperor. He's definitely beyond the peak of a martial emperor. Yunxiao could clearly sense the power of the punch, which was far beyond the peak of a martial emperor, but the aura of the stone beast was still that of a martial emperor, which was a little difficult for him to understand. He gently stretched out his hand, and the rule force directly gathered in front of him, freezing the stone beast's full force attack, making it unable to advance any further. "What's going on?" the demon dragon asked. "I also think that this punch has long surpassed the martial emperor realm, but why is his aura still that of a martial emperor? And why does he not have the domain power that a martial honor should have?" Yunxiao did not say anything. He could not explain the situation. He directly gave the order for the stone beast to withdraw its fist. The ferocious look on the stone beast's face immediately melted away, and it returned to its cute and silly appearance. Its body size also shrank from a giant to the size of a basketball before it stopped. "Your whole body is like a gourd," Yunxiao looked at him and said, "but when you punch, you're like a guardian deity, indestructible. I'll give you a name. I'll call you the Gourd Little King Kong." He thought for a moment and said, "Demonic beasts usually have very low intelligence and it's very difficult for them to learn human martial arts. I'll teach you the simplest, but most practical move, Vajra Fist. I wonder if you can comprehend it." Suddenly, the idea of letting demon beasts learn martial techniques came to Yunxiao's mind. Since demons could learn martial techniques, why couldn't demon beasts? Although there was a huge difference in their intelligence, it should not be a problem to teach some of the simplest things. The Calabash Little King Kong was best at swinging his fist and smashing people, which had the same effect as the King Kong fist. He could communicate with the Gourd Little King Kong through spiritual thoughts. He immediately imprinted the essence of the King Kong fist into the Gourd Little King Kong's mind. Although it was the most elementary martial arts technique, under his understanding as a martial supreme, he was able to deduce it very thoroughly. In fact, the most basic martial technique contained the most basic laws of heaven and earth, but it could only be understood after a certain realm of comprehension. The Gourd Little King Kong's face immediately revealed a puzzled look. It stood there in a daze, motionless, like a statue. Its distressed color and furrowed brows were vividly imitated. The demonic dragon swallowed his saliva and said with a bitter smile, "I'm afraid you're the first person in history to teach demonic beasts martial arts." "Not necessarily," Yunxiao said. "Some powerful demon beasts will gradually gain intelligence as their strength continues to improve. For example, Yao Jinliang's Yerburier beast's intelligence was not below that of an ordinary human, so it must have mastered an extremely high level of martial arts. It's also said that if a demonic beast can reach godhood, it's extremely possible for it to take human form, making it invincible against those of the same cultivation level. The demonic dragon sneered disdainfully, demonic beasts entering the godly state? Stop dreaming. After the martial sovereign realm, the most important thing was the comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. With the intelligence of demonic beasts, it was basically impossible for them to enter the godly state. Moreover, there are no records of any human who has reached the godly state in the history of the continent, let alone demonic beasts. It's up to you, Yunshao said with a smile. It's up to you. There are indeed many outstanding talents in the history of the continent, but the number of outstanding figures still depends on the present. The demonic dragon's heart skipped a beat. The human in front of him was no less powerful than any of the great figures recorded in history. He suddenly found Yunshao staring at him with a smile, and he was taken aback. Why are you staring at me? Your gaze is strange. Yunshao asked in surprise. You can see that? You've been with me for so many years. He grabbed at the air and a force immediately bound the demonic dragon, pulling it towards him. The demonic dragon had a bad feeling and struggled to say, "What do you want to do?" But in the divine realm tablet, no matter how he struggled, it was useless. I've finished refining the gourd little King Kong, Yunshao said with a smile. Now, I'll naturally start refining you. What? You bastard. The demonic dragon was enraged. You want to refine me? In addition to anger, there was also a trace of fear in his heart. Yunshao looked at him with no malice on his face, only a teasing look. Do you remember that in the western region, there's a big sect that has a very magical cultivation method? The demonic dragon's face was still filled with anger. His brows were furrowed, and his pupils suddenly shrank as he cried out, "Are you talking about the soul battle technique of the Soul Devourer clan?" That's right. Yunshao said seriously. I've noticed this technique a long time ago. It can greatly increase a martial artist's combat power. Although the flaw was also very obvious, the Soul Devourer race had relied on this cultivation technique to become one of the 7 major forces on the continent. And you are precisely the best material to cultivate this soul battle technique. The demonic dragon's expression turned silent, and the anger and fear on his face gradually disappeared. He pondered and said, "Do you know that this may affect your soul power cultivation base, and it will be a great obstacle for you to recover to the 9th tier alchemist realm?" Yunshao said, "Of course, I wouldn't have refined it in the past. But now, the deeper I understood the great expansion divine technique, the more he could understand the profoundness of soul cultivation. Even if I cultivate that soul-based technique, it won't cause me any substantial harm. Besides, don't forget that I still have the Kunwa divine tree." The demon dragon's miniature form gradually grew larger as it slowly swam around Yunshao, seemingly hesitating. What are you hesitating for? Yunshao asked with a smile. What are you hesitating for? Demonic dragon's face was filled with desolation as he sighed, "Forget it. I've been your sword spirit for so long, so what if I become your beast soul? Besides, I'll be the one who benefits the most this way. Even you don't care, what am I even more afraid of?" Yunshao nodded slightly and said, "I said that I would help you rebuild your body and return your freedom. From now on, you shall be nourished in my soul." He made a few hand seals and formed a green circle in front of him. It was covered with all kinds of strange symbols and emitted a soft light. The symbols were actually in the form of demonic beasts. They were extremely lifelike as they ran around the circle.